IVM.
Welcome to another episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. As you may have seen, we did not have the IPL trumpet noise, and that's the series that has just ended. We're somewhere in the middle of two big Indian tournaments, the IPL and the India-Australia series coming up. DJ, let me ask you, how are you feeling? Is it a lot of cricket withdrawal?
Yeah, well, cricket withdrawal, my heart rate has finally calmed down. I was telling you guys, I was watching the PSL games that were played after the IPL finished. So slightly desperate times called for desperate measures. The Karachi Kings won. It was shown on YouTube. So just trying to get in whatever cricket one can get, man. I mean, the addict needs their fix, right? So I know Ashwin's been doing something similar.
And DJ, let me ask you, I think you're the only one who probably watched it. Ashwin, correct me if I'm wrong, but how was it to watch that on YouTube free? Because I personally think that was a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. I think it was free on YouTube in the countries where it wasn't being telecast. So I think in India it was on Eurosport or some other channel. But I remember the IPL as well in 2010, right? Was
Yes.
on YouTube. I was in Bangkok then. I remember watching it on YouTube, and it was amazing. But yeah, I mean, definitely an idea for people wanting to spread the game. It was nice. There were no real ads. There was no kind of half your screen being covered by sponsors, logos and stuff. So it was definitely different. Quality of cricket, okay, not the greatest, kind of like a, I don't know, knockoff IPL.
No two super overs quality level of cricket, right?
No, and we have the IPL trumpet, right? They've got this really annoying PSL version of it. Oh God, and it plays every 3 seconds. It's just too annoying. Sorry.
Awesome. Ashwin, let me ask you then, are you missing the IPL or are you more looking forward to the India-Australia series now?
I think I'm more looking forward to the India-Australia series. The IPL was fantastic, but it's sort of what DJ alluded to. It is a big commitment. It is also sort of emotionally draining. So it was awesome while it lasted, but just being able to look forward to India-Australia, I'm looking forward to seeing the boys in blue again, to be able to cheer for all the guys we love so much versus hoping some of them fail. It's going to be great. I'm so pumped for India-Australia. It's not great timing for those of us in North America until you get to the last 3 tests, but the limited overs is not going to be great timing, but that's okay. We'll make it work. We've done it several times before.
Yeah, and for those of us in Asia, it's absolutely fantastic, right? Because you're going to see a lot of cricket happening probably in the afternoon, the T20 start later in the evening. So good timing all around. So guys, today we're going to talk mainly about 2 things. We're going to talk about an IPL flop 11, which I'll get to. We're going to talk about the India, Australia, ODI and T20 squad. We're going to talk a little bit about Kohli's paternity leave. So stay tuned for that. But guys, let me come first to the IPL flop 11. So last week we did our best 11, and I still can't believe you guys left Ben Stokes out of that team. I think there was some Twitter chat on that as well. But this week, instead of doing the Bakwaskar Awards, which we've done for 2 or 3 years in a row, we are going to just do IPL flop 11. And I've got some names down that between the 3 of us we've already put. So we'll do it the same way, gents. We'll pick a name. We'll go through. If 2 of the 3 of us agree, they go into the list. So let me start then. The first name on our list is Prithivi Shaw. I think he was an absolute disaster this season. He just couldn't get anything right. His technique looked weak, and I think that was worrying from an India perspective as well. And the fact that he just got kind of dropped for Rahane for a few games was, to me, very shocking, but something that was necessary. If somebody had asked me that at the start of the tournament, I probably would have said this is not going to happen. So Ashwin, let me get your thoughts on Prithivi Shaw.
Yeah, no doubt about him for me. So I'm trying to pull up stats as we go through this, right? But in the 2019 season, 2018, he averaged 27. Last year, he averaged 22. This year, he just averaged 17. He did make 2 50s, but to your point, none of them looked very good. They were scratchy. It almost just looked like he was trying to hit every single ball outside the park, and in many cases didn't use technique, didn't move your feet. And there are a few players over the years we've seen and loved who didn't have much good foot movement, but it needs to work for it to be. It's so unattractive that it only counts if it works and you get the runs. And so very, very painful to watch Shaw. I think Delhi made the right call dropping him, but pretty crazy to think that our first name on the list was from the team that reached the finals, but that's the reality of Delhi's season, I think.
Absolutely. DJ, anything to add on Prithivi Shaw?
Well, just a very disappointing season. I mean, what a difference a couple of years makes, right? He was the big hope in 2018 for the Indian cricket team. He had that 100 against the West Indies on debut in 84, 85 balls. And things have gone a little bit wrong for him. Not the best season, and it's kind of sad that he's the first name on our list. But I don't think anyone can actually argue with that. Hopefully, he's a young player, and he'll take note of this performance and work on whatever his deficiencies, and he'll bounce back. So, hopefully, for India as well as the Delhi Capitals, he will make a comeback next year.
Yeah, but this year, unfortunately, he's the first name on our IPL flop 11, so not great news there for Prithivi Shaw. Let's come to the second name that we have, Robbie Uthappa. Now, Uthappa has historically been among the highest scorers in the IPL. He's done extremely well for KKR. And I think this year, it just didn't seem to work for him. He played 12 matches, hit 196 runs at an average of 25. I know he had one or two good innings when they moved him up the slot. DJ, I'm going to ask you first because you had put his name down. Do you think it was a factor that, the Rajasthan Royals just didn't know where to bat him and so towards the end, he started playing better, or is Uthappa's time coming to an end?
So he's one of the older players, right, in the IPL. He had a lot of success with the KKR originally. He batted down the order with RR, who had issues with their batting order generally, according to us anyway, right? So, I mean, again, an off season for him. They didn't know where to utilize him well, but there was a lot of competition for this spot, right? There was Watto, there was Aaron Finch. But I think Robbie gets it just because he looked, and I think we may have picked this up in one of the first games, he just looked like he was out of touch with cricket itself, which it's not good signs for him. So unless something drastic changes, I think he may be on the downward slope, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And for somebody who's pretty much playing only the IPL, this is basically your main chance to shine. So Ashwin, I'm going to come to you. DJ is definitely going with Robbie. Let's pick between Finch and Robbie. Who would you put?
I would go Aaron Finch as the second opening slot. So let me go through the numbers really quick. Uthappa, I guess the numbers don't help my case. Uthappa averaged 16.3 at a strike rate of 119, made high score of 41. Finch averaged 22 at a strike rate of 111. So I think it's really that strike rate of 111 from a player like Aaron Finch. By the way, in 2018, his strike rate was 134. 2017 was 166. So I think when he was opening with Padikkal was playing closer to that 110, 120 strike rate. Finch needed to be the guy that went. So it's weird to look at a guy who went 268 runs, including 1 half century, but just not good enough for. And let's remember the pressure on an overseas slot is that much greater. So for me, no doubt the openers are Shaw and Finch, but I can see the case for Uthappa. I think Finch was just disappointed a little bit more.
Agree. Actually, to me also, I would pick Finch over Uthappa. He's a regular opener. There was a lot of expectations from him. And like you said, I mean, Padikkal was the new kid. Him playing well should have eased the pressure on Finch to take his time and play better. But he just didn't. So, DJ, sorry, given we're going 2 out of 3, Shaw and Finch are going to be our 2 openers. The next name on the list is actually Watson. And DJ, I know you mentioned him. So does he, just because he didn't have a good season and he is an opener, but I think I would slot him in at 3. How about you?
Yeah, exactly. I would slot him in at 3. He's not bowling. He's slow in the field. Unfortunately, he's been a great player for the IPL. He's been one of their marquee players since his RR days, as well as
and he retired as well recently.
Yeah, unfortunate, right? And it's like those iconic images of the IPL with his knee full of blood in that final while he batted to try and get Chennai across the line. Iconic stuff, but like all good things must come to an end. I'm afraid Watto just didn't have the firepower this year, and flattered to deceive, and he just looked creaky. And he's probably got an alternative career in podcasting, right? With his great podcast, so he's got something else lined up. But unfortunate for Watto. He makes 3 for me.
Okay, Ashwin, fair enough. 3 Watto.
I guess this is always the argument we have when we create 11s. Are we looking for who is the weakest number 3 in the league, or are we just looking for weakest top order, I guess?
I think the way we've done it is we've listed probably 15 to 20 players who we believe had a bad IPL. If you have a better number 3, happy to hear it, and we can quickly vote on that.
I'm trying to think. I can't think of who was a very poor performing number 3. So given that, let's go with Watto. I think he was definitely among top order batsmen. If you consider the top 3 as your top order batsman, Watson would make the 3rd for my list. So I think he's fair.
Okay, got it. So we got Shaw, Finch, and Watto. Again, I think because we don't have specific number 4, 5, 6, I'm just going to go with a few names. DJ, let me give you guys three names and you tell me whether you agree or you want to add somebody else. Okay, so we'll cover 4, 5, 6 like that. So I've got Maxwell, Russell, and DK. I think all three had horrendous seasons. Maxwell, absolute disaster. I think there was a long period of time where he hadn't even hit a 6. And I can't even remember if he hit a 6 at the end of it. He went at almost, I think, 15, an average of 15, strike rate of just about 100. Russell had a disaster of a season. And I think it's just unfortunate. His average was actually even below Maxwell's, I believe, at 13. He didn't bowl that well. He picked up just a few wickets, and he's the game changer for KKR. And then lastly, DK. I don't have his stats in front of me, but again, a guy who had to give up captaincy mid-season. So Maxwell, Russell, DK, DJ, give me your view.
Yeah, again, you can't disagree with those names, but I'd throw in a couple more names in there. I think Pant and Dhoni probably deserve to be in there as well, just because they had pretty bad years too. And I mean, it seems like the wicketkeeper spot seems really up for grabs with Dhoni, Pant. I hate to say it, Dhoni and Pant being two of my favorites, and DK all competing for that spot. But can't disagree with Maxi, flattered to deceive for years now. I can't remember the last time he did anything big in the IPL. And Russell, man, I mean, for an IPL greatest of all time, pretty poor, like really, really bad. Averaging 13, just not good enough, man. And he looked awkward. Bumrah, that bouncer to Russell, I mean, he just showed up his technique or lack of it, to be fair. So I think Russell and Maxi definitely make it for me. But then the wicketkeeper spot, it's anyone's game there with Dhoni, Pant, and DK. I don't know whether we pick two of them or we pick one of them. I don't know. What is the plan?
I think let's pick one to be safe. So, DJ, if I'm hearing you correctly, Maxwell and Russell are part of yours as well. Before we get to the wicketkeeper, Ashwin, Maxwell and Russell, okay at 4 and 5 for you?
Yeah, I think so. Again, it's very, very difficult to think through. Yeah, I would go with Maxwell and Russell. Sorry, I'm thinking about the number 6 spot in the keeper. But
okay, so number 6, let's assume it's a keeper. Between DK, MSD, and Pant, give us your view.
Very difficult choice. I want to say, in terms of impact on the side, I want to go with DK just because I can feel DJ's shock right now because he thought I was going to say Dhoni. But I think, Varun, you said it right. The idea that he had to give up captaincy midway, it was not a good look. It was very difficult for the team. So I'm going to go with DK, but I really let the record say Pant and Dhoni are very, very, very close contenders.
Okay, DJ, I'm going to come to you then. If you, out of the 3, which one?
I'm not going to say. You say first. You go.
Okay,
first.
my vote is actually for MSD to be in the IPL flop 11. And if you were going to say Pant, then we've got a big problem on our hands.
I mean, let's just go with the stats, man. I mean, because all of them had such horrific IPLs. They had such bad IPLs. I think Dhoni's 40, right? So, I mean, he's not pushing for a spot in the international side. He's retired from international cricket. So I'm going to give him that excuse. And maybe it's just me, so I'm going to give him that excuse. DK was actually trying to make a spot for himself in the next India 11 as a... Hasn't he been
trying to do this for the last 18 years or something?
Yeah, exactly. But he moved himself up, remember? There was all that whole batting order debacle. He gave up his captaincy. Similarly with Pant. So for me, it's between Pant and DK. And I mean, I hate to say it, but I think DK probably gets that because Pant kind of redeemed. Although they both had one good innings, Pant redeemed himself because he played it in the final, right? I remember one good 50 from DK coming in as a finisher, and that was good. But I mean, otherwise I remember a lot of zeros for him, whereas Pant at least got off the mark. So DK gets that spot, and we let MSD go out with some dignity.
Fair enough. So you've heard everyone. They've got 2 for DK. I was the only one for MSD, but we'll wait and see if next year MSD makes the flop 11 or the greatest 11 for the 2021 IPL. Guys, Ashwin, I want to ask you, do we have a special mention section for Kedar Jadhav? Because I'm not sure if he should even be in a flop 11 to take on anybody.
I think he takes a number 7 slot for me. I think we haven't found.
Does he make any 11 though? That is the question. Yeah. Does he even play in the flop 11?
I don't think he plays in any 11.
He played 8 matches. He got 8 matches, made 62 runs, didn't bowl. I think he may have bowled once. I think when you play 8 matches, I think if your criteria has got to be how many matches did you play, right? I think 8 matches is enough. That guy's my number 7 for flop 11 for sure. It was just a disaster. Didn't belong, didn't fit in. Just a disaster.
Yeah, and I was reading another thing about Jadhav. I think he has only one score that is 30 and above in the last 21 innings. And DJ, I don't know if you remember or not, but it was that the innings where he was playing on one foot like Karate Kid at the end of the first match of last IPL?
After pulling his hamstring while batting and then coming out in the end after Bravo's done all the big hitting. I can't remember whether that he got any runs in that, but didn't he win it with a leg by or something?
Yeah,
Seems
no,
to be
I think he won it with a
speciality.
cover drive of a 4, like a boundary. But I mean, Jadhav definitely number 7 for me. Just terrible. DJ, I don't think you have much of a choice in this. But
No, I don't think so. And I think every listener will also be jumping on the Keja bandwagon here.
Okay, let's go then to number 8. Right, so just to recap, we got Shaw, Finch, Yadav, Maxi, Russell, DK, and Kedar Jadhav. DJ, you put Sunil Narine in at 8. Do you want to just talk us through that?
Yeah, horrific IPL, right, for him. I mean, he had one good spell with the ball. I remember maybe against Punjab where he won a couple of he took a couple of wickets and won that game. But I mean, his batting didn't fire. He wasn't that bank with the ball for KKR. He was dropped for a couple of games, which is kind of unthinkable, man. I mean, but if KKR is dropping Narine, he also had his action questioned, and he was then actually dropped on form after that. And so it was either Narine, I keep saying that. It was either Narayan or Russell playing. And I mean, it's unthinkable for KKR to do that. So he had a horrific year. So he definitely takes that spot, 8th spot for me, or he could even open the batting for this flop 11 and make no runs. So yeah, poor from Sunil Narine.
Ashwin, do you agree with that? Sunil Narine in the flop 11?
I pretty much do. It's hard to argue with that. Very disappointing, both with ball and bat. So again, unfortunately, I think the one good innings he had was against Delhi, but which is just unfortunate. But yeah, I no argument from me there.
Okay, so you got Narine at
Would you have him? I mean, I know we're 2 or 3, but would you have him?
I don't know if I would necessarily have him. I think I do remember he did well in a couple of games, but generally I was not happy with his performance overall. So I'm very okay to put him in there. I mean, I did have Jimmy Neesham as part of the names that I had jotted down, but I don't think he played enough matches. So
yeah, true. But also Narine, actually, according to stats and Crickwiz or something, is the greatest T20 player ever to have played the game. I mean, for his impact stats or something, I don't know. We'll put a link in the show notes to that stat. But I mean, for a guy like that to do nothing this IPL pretty much is shocking.
Yeah, so, and if you think about it, for the three of us to agree that Russell and Narine make it to a IPL flop 11, it shows you. I mean, in a way, as I'm talking through this, I'm realizing KKR maybe it wasn't that bad to finish at number 5 on the table, given these two just didn't show up for the season, and that probably shows you how much a Morgan did, right? So
and Shubman and Cummins, right, towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Cummins did well. Shubman, yes, I think he did well. I don't know if he's T20 or IPL level cricketer yet, but yes, I agree. I think
and Rana a couple of games.
Yeah, I think given the circumstances of your two best overseas players not performing, all these other guys had to step up. So KKR actually, number 5 was not that bad for them. Right, so let's go to a second spinner that I have, and I'm going to name Kuldeep Yadav. He was in my team. Ashwin, thoughts on Kuldeep?
Yeah, he's not in my team. So sorry, let me just jump back for 1 second. The numbers, DJ's going to hate this, but the one other argument I had for KJ at number 7 that I forgot to mention is Krunal Pandya. I think he belongs in the flop 11 of the year. So let me just put that out there, and then we'll come back to the bowling. Kuldeep Yadav.
So let me give you Kuldeep's stats that I have. He played 5 matches, took 1 wicket at an average of 92 and an economy rate of 7.6. So Ashwin, yeah, your thoughts?
It pains me to say it, but just not good enough, right? I think the fact that he only got 5 matches as one of India's 2 premier spin bowlers, has been for the last little while a shoe into the limited overs side. I mean, it makes you almost question, are Ashwin and Jadeja in the next few years going to get a more serious look in the limited over slot to bowl with Chahal, or is somebody younger, the Ravi Bishnoi or some of these guys going to get a spot? Because Chahal made our best off 11 and Kuldeep is making our worst off 11. So I'm disappointed to say it, but I can't disagree with the numbers.
DJ?
I actually have a different spinner for my team, which is Mujib, man. Ashwin, you'll remember this. We both put him into our fantasy team and we captained him, and he played 2 games, scored 1 run, and took 0 wickets. In 2020, he gave 83 runs in in 8 overs. He went at 10 and over, took 0 wickets. So for a guy who's got such a huge influence on Afghanistan cricket as well as other leagues all over the world, I mean, Mujib to not pick a single wicket this IPL was pretty shocking. And we've also not spoken about Daniel Sams. Again, 11 runs.
Yeah.
I think we've just blanked that guy out and deleted him from our mind.
Fair. So we'll add him in the Pacers list. Ashwin, I'm going to give you the final vote on this, right? I put Kuldeep down. DJ put Mujib down. Your pick out of the two.
I'm going to go with Kuldeep just because I think expectations of him, I guess the expectations of both were high, but I think 5 matches, 1 wicket, average of 92, economy of 7.8, just so far away from what you expect from Kuldeep. I'm going to go with Kuldeep.
Okay, got it. So we've got 8 players in now, guys. We come now to the Pacers. So let me give you the Pacers. DJ, give me your best 2. So we've got Jaydev Unadkat, Sheldon Cottrell, and yeah, actually that's all I have. And
Daniel Sams, right?
Yeah, Daniel Sams. So we've got 3 names.
Can I add 2 more before we discuss?
Yeah, please do.
I'm going to add Lungi Ngidi and Dale Steyn.
Steyn, yes. Steyn was the other name that I was thinking. All right, guys. So let's go. DJ, your top 2.
I hate to say it, but it's the guy that I picked as I picked him as my top wicket taker, but I think Jaydev takes that one, man, sadly. He just did very little and it became too predictable almost. Like people knew that his slower ball was coming, right? He played 7 games, 4 wickets, 57 average, nearly going at 10. I mean, it's always his price tag that attracts eyeballs, right? And I mean, he just didn't deliver this time. And unfortunate for a guy who had such an outstanding breakthrough red ball season, the IPL didn't back it up. And unfortunately, that's what everyone remembers, right? And doesn't remember the toil that on that Saurashtra or the Vidarbha cricket ground wicket.
Yeah. And I think, DJ, what you said is fair. I mean, for all our listeners and new listeners, we actually had Jaydev Unadkat on the show and he spoke very well about the IPL auction and the price and that he didn't ask for it. It was something that was given to him. But Ashwin, you can't help but think that even if he was 1/10 of the price that he actually got, this performance was still not up to the mark, right?
Yeah, he's just had a poor season and that wraps his 3rd consecutive year of poor wicket. Like he took 24 wickets in 2017 that unleashed him kind of, and then 3rd consecutive poor year. So once you can say is a blip, twice you can argue, okay, he's give him 1 more shot to come back. 3 years in a row, very, very difficult to see him bouncing back from this. So one of the nicest guys we've ever spoken to. Check out that episode if you haven't. I hope he does great things in the domestic circuit and maybe can find his way into the test team at some point, but just not doing enough in the T20 format.
Got it. Okay. For the last pick, I'm going to do an interesting thing now. So Ashwin, we have 4 people left. You narrow it down to 3. I'll narrow it down to 2 and then DJ picks the final one. Okay. Let's try that. So we got Daniel Sams, Lungi, Steyn and Cottrell. Ashwin, narrow it down to 3 for us.
Okay. Difficult to do. I'll just narrow it down to Daniel Sams, Cottrell and Steyn.
Okay. Considering you made us add Lungi.
I did, but off that list, he took 9 wickets in his 4 matches, right? So he was expensive, but he did take 9 wickets. Yeah. So that's my rationale.
Okay. I'm going to put Sams and I want to say Steyn because I think Cottrell is in there just because of Tewatia. So I'm going to put Sams and Steyn in there. DJ, your pick final, our last player of the IPL Flop 11 between Daniel Sams and Dale Steyn.
But Daniel Sams only played like 2 games, right? I don't think
you put him in there.
But Steyn only played 3.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I don't think Steyn can ever make a flop 11. I mean, expectations-wise, yeah, but I mean, he's an all-time great of cricket in all 3 formats, or at least the other formats. So I'm going to go with Daniel Sams, particularly because he kept Sandeep Lamichhane out of the team for so long. So Sams makes it to my 11.
I think that's a pick that has made all 3 of us happy, DJ. Well done. I'm very happy that you said Sams. And so just before we go into the break, I'm going to recap all 11. We got Prithivi Shaw, Aaron Finch, Shane Watson, Glenn Maxwell, Andre Russell, Dinesh Karthik, Kedar Jadhav, Sunil Narine, Kuldeep Yadav, Jaydev Unadkat, and Daniel Sams. And guys, I'm going to try and see if you guys somehow managed to pick 4 overseas. 1, 2, 3. No, you picked more than 4 overseas. Anyway, this is the IPL Flop 11. We'll be back after the break.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So it's been a great week on the network, as it almost always is. Let me give you a couple of highlights that you should definitely check out. Chiki Sarkar was on This Round's on Me with Gauri Devi Dayal. Great conversation. I think you will really enjoy that. Shlok Ramachandran of our new show, Millennial Athlete, who guested on one of our older shows, Football Should Ball. He's a big football fan in addition to being a professional athlete. So I think it's a really interesting connection. And they had a great conversation about football just generally. Nankari, our new show about Indian food, hosted by Sadaf and Archit, talk about laddus this week and basically, how awesome they are. It's Diwali week, and I think that's an apt conversation for them to have. On the Wire Talks podcast, Siddharth Bhatia has a great conversation with Dylan Mohan Gray about his work on Bad Boy Billionaire, specifically around the Vijay Mallya episode. Definitely check out the conversation if you want to know more about that. And finally, let me recommend the Edges and Sledges cricket podcast this week. They take a look back at the IPL 2020. They go over the final, Delhi versus Mumbai, and how that played out. And they also create their dream IPL 2020 fantasy team. Do check that out. I think you'll enjoy that as well. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
Do you think an IPL flop 11 could beat an IPL greatest 11 of 2020?
I think it's not bad on
It's
the
not a
day.
bad team.
On paper, it's a pretty good side, man.
Right. So, yeah, that was the discussion that we were having in the break. But let's move gears a little bit. Let's talk about the upcoming India-Australia series. Let's talk a little bit about what's been happening in cricket so far. So, Ashwin, I'm going to come to you first. I think one interesting piece of news is that the ICC announced on November 19th that they're going to change the World Test Championship points system. And what they've essentially said is that in the new point system, a percentage of points will determine the final standings of essentially who will play 1 versus 2, right? And so in a situation because of COVID, what happens is, I'll give you one example. India, for example, have had 4 series. The total points contested, or the total points up for grab, were 480. And India got 360 points out of 480. So their percentage of points is 75. Now, India was at top of this table, but after this change, Australia has made it to the top of the table. And Australia now has a percentage points win or points gathered of 82.2. India's number 2 at 75. England at 60, 61 almost, and New Zealand at 50. So, Ashwin, firstly, any thoughts around this change? Is it the right move, you think?
It is very, very, very difficult to manage this situation. Let's start with that, right? A lot of sides have had series cancelled because of COVID. In many cases, the sides who have series cancelled are the poorer boards or the smaller cricketing countries or those who are ranked kind of 5 through 9 already. So if you're going off of absolute points now, you're kind of creating this system where you continue to disproportionately help the big 3 countries and you disproportionately hurt the smaller nations. So I don't love the idea of being midway through anything and changing it, but it's been a bizarre year across the board for everybody, all sports, etc. I understand the idea of saying, okay, percentage points is a better metric of wins. I mean, it's what you use in many sports across the world is your win-loss ratio or your percentage points. So I get it. It just leaves a bad taste in the mouth that it changed kind of arbitrarily middle of the tournament. And oh yeah, by the way, now India used to be first, now they're second. So it's just awkward, I think, but I totally get it. And I know they had to do something, and this feels like one of the only things they could have done.
Yeah, interesting you said that, because you're right. The smaller nations or nations that are not in the top 4 will miss out a little bit. But again, I think, DJ, if I'm not mistaken, the World Test Championship, basically it's the top 2 teams that get the glory, right? Nothing else really matters for the teams after top 2.
Correct. So those 2 play the final at what is apparently the home of cricket, i.e. Lords. I actually found the interesting part about all this change was that Anil Kumble was on this committee that recommended change. So no conspiracy theory yet, but Anil Kumble was heading the ICC committee which changed the point system. And of course, we know the history between him and our esteemed skipper. So,
yeah. But DJ, tell me, 1, 2, 3, 4 are Australia, India, England, and New Zealand. Now, the way the series that are left is that Australia has to play India at home. They also play South Africa. Now, I don't know if they're going to South Africa or South Africa is coming. I'm not sure of that. But arguably, they have it easier than India, who's number 2, and still have to play Australia in Australia and England in England, which, by the way, has been announced for next August. And DJ, I hope that I can join you for at least one game in August 2021. England has just one series left against India, right, which is again at home. And New Zealand has got West Indies and Pakistan both coming to New Zealand. So one can't help but think that India's probably going to fall to number 3 or 4. DJ?
Look, frankly, we played a lot of the initial part of this test championship at home, right? So I don't think it's an issue. If you want to be the top test team in the world, you've got to beat teams both away and at home. And I think Kohli will just need to, and his team will just need to do that to prove that they are worthy of that top 2 spot. It will be easier for Australia, so to speak, playing at home. England is playing at home as well, but it's not going to come easy. And India have had their fill of home games. So and the New Zealand tour, which didn't go that well, which has actually dropped their percentage of wins below Australia, right, which is actually catapulted Australia above them. That said, I think if India win a couple of games in Australia, that should be enough to help them finish top 2, right? That's what I understood from what's been written about this as yet.
Yeah, correct. I think so too. I think, Ashwin, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I think the fact that New Zealand has those 2 home series, I think they are a threat for India at number 2.
Yeah, I think well said. Nothing to add.
Okay, got it. So that's interesting. Now, DJ mentioned this about India not having to lose all their tests, right, and still maintaining a point at number 2. So, Ashwin, let me come to you about this concept of paternity leave in international test cricket. And there's been a lot of chat about Virat Kohli because he said that after the first test, he actually put in an application to BCCI to leave the quarantine bubble in Australia and go home for the birth of his child. It's been interesting. You've had everyone from Sunil Gavaskar to Kapil Dev commentate on this. You've had Harsha Bhogle say, that this is modern day cricket. Like I mentioned, the 2 older Indian stars that spoke about it were almost kind of saying that we didn't have the luxury in our time to do this, but quote unquote, it's great that Virat can do this. Do you think there are these undercurrents to some of these statements? I know as cricket fans, you'd want him to play, but I guess in a normal circumstance, he may have been able to go and come back, but with this bio bubble, it's all messed up. So Virat Kohli is not going to be there. Ashwin, your thoughts?
Very interesting situation, right? And I do think there are undercurrents in some of the comments being made, which, again, I personally don't agree with, right? So my take on this is, yes, it's true. 30 years ago, whether it's in cricket or in any sport, even in corporate jobs, etc., men didn't get time off to be with their children. It was just not a thing with their newborns, etc. And now, in many parts of the world, I know for sure in the US and Canada here, paternity leave is a thing. Men take time off to be involved with their families, to help their spouse to be with the newborn. And I think it's great. And so I'm very supportive of it as a concept. And so I think Kohli did the right thing, right? Honestly, I don't think he's doing anything wrong. I think, yes, he has a more visible job where we all want him to play, etc. But the birth of a child is a special moment in anybody's life. And we want him to play cricket for India for the next, 5-10 years. And we want him to feel really good about that. And if this is something that's an important life moment, I'm supportive of it. Where I think this gets interesting is now this is the second series in a row that India have played Australia where there could arguably a quote-unquote asterisk, where Australians will say, yeah, we beat them last year or a year and a half ago, but there was no Smith and Warner. And in that case, it's because of illegal or not allowed activity on the field. But now they'll get to say, if Australia wins, we'll get to say, yeah, but you beat a team without Kohli. So it's just an interesting time. It's going to be an interesting dynamic that way.
Yeah, and actually both asterisks have something to do with something in the pants, right? So nice. So sorry, I'm just sitting in my living room and I'm just too happy with that joke. DJ, let me ask you about Kohli's paternity.
So I was going to say, you've given both series the asterisks, but we're basically saying Warner plus Smith are equal to Kohli, right? By giving the same asterisks.
See, it's an excuse. That's all. So we have an excuse.
And I'm not making the excuse yet, by the way. I think India looks great. It's going to be a competitive series. I'm just saying, if it happens at the end, we'll have the excuse to fall back on.
But the solution is taking a cumulative score, right? We take a cumulative score across the 10 test
And then we should
matches.
take a percentage wins, right? That's what we should do.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. Great.
That's
Okay.
right. But yeah, so two things on that. One, firstly, very interesting how Australia is obsessed with Kohli. They're obsessed. They hate him, but they love him. Like we saw it with that.
In brackets?
In
That
bracket
is a
one.
fantastic joke that I get, and I don't know if anybody else will get. But it's the reference from the movie Delhi Belly. And
Oh, yeah,
with the
yeah,
song,
yeah.
I
love
hate you,
yeah.
like I love you,
But
like
I love you.
in
Yeah,
brackets.
okay, got it.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, I thought it was, but I was like, this is a public forum. I was going to say, so they're obsessed with him. They've got a love-hate relationship with him. We saw it with that net session, which went viral. We see it with like Fox is actually pushing out how they've got the limited over series, which Kohli is going to be attending the whole thing of. But like, I think 7 is the other broadcaster, which only has one test of Kohli, and all the marketing is around Kohli. And I mean, you're just like, wow, they respect the guy because Kohli is almost, they respect him because he's almost Australian in his outlook. He's aggressive. He'll sledge you. He'll get into verbal altercations. We saw all the stuff with Tim Payne last time. We've seen him get into like stuff with David Warner previously. We've seen him play the magnanimous leader in the India-Australia game in the World Cup. So that fascination with Kohli, I think Australians were looking forward to it. Of course, it's a live event, and I'm totally in agreement with what both you and Ashwin have said on that. The other point to remember is that Siraj has had his father pass away, unfortunately, and he's unable to leave the bubble because he won't be able to come back in time to re-enter the bio bubble and stuff. So it's such a tough time to be playing cricket, and I mean, your heart goes out to these cricketers. I mean, he's been unable to attend the last rites of his father, and I mean, if Kohli needs to do something for his family, he absolutely needs to do it. Cricket will always be around, but I mean, the birth of your child is, as Ashwin said, a special moment, right? So, good on him for actually for asking for that, and for the BCCI for granting that leave.
Absolutely. And Vijay, you're right. Very sad for Mohammad Siraj. So condolences to him and his family. But yeah, it shows tough fighting spirit to stay on despite this loss. We saw this with Mandeep Singh in the IPL as well. And, he played some good knocks and dedicated it to his dad. So really hope that that Siraj does well for his father, and kudos to him. So guys, then now we've come to the last section of this podcast. By the time this podcast is put out, there'll be about 4.5 days to go before the first ODI. I think we should do a rundown and just go through the India ODI squad a little bit. Again, like we usually do on this podcast, I'm not going to ask you guys for a playing 11. I just want to hear from you who India's top 7 should be. It's very interesting. So I'm going to just read out the India ODI squad, comprising first of the batsmen, the all-rounders, and the wicket-keepers. So let's try and collect our top 7 from this. And again, like I said, we're not creating a team here. I just want to hear from you guys who would make it. So Virat Kohli, Dhawan, Gill, Iyer, Pandey, Agarwal are your pure batsmen. You've then got Pandya and Jadeja as your all-rounders, and then KL Rahul and Sanju Samson. So Ashwin, I'm going to come to you first. What do you think about this squad, and who would you put up as your top 7 on this Friday?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've had to think about an opener other than Rohit, right? So anyway, for me, top 7 would be Rohit.
Yes, sorry, Ash. No. I think I'm just going to mention that since you mentioned Rohit, sorry, I missed that out. But just before the podcast started, DJ had said Rohit is going to miss the limited overs games, both T20 and ODI. So yes, Ashwin, you're right. He's definitely out. And I think he needs to get on that plane fast to even make it for the test quarantine. But sorry, Ashwin, for interrupting.
No, of course not. I think that's an important point. So for me, Dhawan for sure opens. I would open with KL. So Dhawan and KL opening. Kohli at 1 drop. Iyer at 2 down. Then, I guess you're asking for 5, 6, 7. I would go with Hardik for sure.
Say it, Manish.
I want to play Manish at 5, dude. I would love to play Manish. So let's go. Manish at 5, Hardik, and then Jadeja. Wait, is that a batsman light? That's one batsman with light, right? Who am I missing?
Yeah, because you're playing both all-rounders, which again is not a bad option. Yeah. It's just
the thing is, if I play both all-rounders, I might play them 7 and 8.
Okay, fair. But to keep it simple, let's just say this is your top 7. Yeah. I think the only catch and the reason yours will make sense when you think about it a little bit later is that Pandya is not bowling. So essentially, given his hitting kind of power, you are going to play him as a full-time batsman, right? So
yeah,
DJ,
he's basically a specialist 6 for me. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So DJ, let me come to you then. Let's go with your top 7 out of these guys.
So I actually think Gill and Dhawan will open the batting because, and the reason for that is that KL batted 5 in our last series and he did really well there. He batted really well at number 5 in the ODI game. So while the temptation is to swap him directly for Rohit, I think in the long term, we're looking at KL as a number 5, right? So I would bat Dhawan, Gill, of course, King Kohli at number 3. 4 is Iyer, he retains the spot. 5 is KL. And then I think 6 is a difficult one. Are we playing a pure batsman? In which case, I would play Mayank, right? And Mayank takes that spot for... sorry, not Mayank. Manish, who takes that spot for me because particularly he did well he's done well in Australia in the ODI game before. He'll have good memories of scoring that 100. I think it was maybe 2016 or 2017 where he scored that 100. But I mean, he's done well in the past. He's a proven performer. Number 6, excellent fielder. So he takes number 6. Number 7 for me is Pandya. And then, were we looking up to 7?
Yeah, we were looking up to 7. I feel like you were going to say Jadhav. So DJ...
Yeah. I was going with Jadhav, yeah. Definitely.
Okay, so you... Okay, got it. So let me just give my view before we talk the last 4 slots. I actually agree with DJ. I think DJ said this is what is going to happen or what should happen. I think this should happen because if you're cementing KL Rahul as a number 5 spot for your ODIs, I think he should bat at 5 in Australia. So DJ, I agree with you. I think it's going to be Dhawan, Gill, Kohli, Iyer, KL. I would play Pandya and Jadhav then. So I'm not a fan of playing Manish. But DJ, let me finish with you since you were on a roll, right? So you've got Jadhav at 8. So now essentially you have to pick between Chahal, Kuldeep, Bumrah, Shami, Saini and Thakur for your last 3 slots. So who would they be?
So Pandya isn't bowling still, right? So if he's batting 7, that makes it quite tricky because we haven't got a bowler. So I think actually Manish doesn't make it because we need 5 bowlers.
Exactly.
So if Pandya isn't still bowling, then Manish unfortunately is dropped out and Pandya moves up 1 spot, in which case Jadeja is batting 7. Bumrah and Shami are definitely in, right?
Yep.
So that
and
is
Chahal
up to
almost,
9.
right?
Yeah, Chahal, yeah. So that's 10, right? That's already 10. So that's 1 more person as between the bowlers, and the toss-up there is between Kuldeep, Yadav and Shardul, Thakur and Saini, right?
Yep.
I would probably go for Saini there, just because of the pure pace that he brings. He didn't have the greatest IPL, I mean, but it wasn't bad enough for him to be in the flop 11, but you saw him where it mattered. He could nail those Yorkers and at pace, and I would love to see Saini get a go in the ODI game before potentially unleashing him in the test matches as well, because he's in that squad too. So, but we'll talk about all that later. So Saini makes it for me at number 11.
Okay, cool. So Ashwin, what about you?
Just so I'm tracking then, this side has Jadeja and then Chahal, Bumrah and Shami assumed, right?
Yeah, so let me just do a quick recap. So we've got Dhawan, Gill, Kohli, Iyer, KL Rahul, Hardik Pandya and Jadhav.
Got it.
So we've got 7 guys done. So you essentially have to pick 4 out of the 6 bowlers' names that I gave.
Got it. So now you're saying out of those 4, what DJ said is Bumrah, Shami and Chahal are shoo-ins. So your choice is, do you play a Kuldeep who becomes your 3rd spinner? Because remember, we're playing Jadeja. So to me, that's a hard no. Then it becomes, okay, which is the 3rd pacer you're going to play? Because Hardik's not bowling. You need the third quota of 10 overs. I'm not a fan of Shardul. Anybody who's listened to this podcast knows that. So I'm also in this Navdeep Saini boat. I think he'd be great to try out. I think he could do really well in the conditions down there. It's a little bit of a long shot, but I think that's what I would go with. So Navdeep Saini would round out the fast bowlers for me.
Yeah, agree. I think all 3 of us are pretty sorted on the bowling. Ashwin, you had mentioned KL Rahul opening. Do you see merit in what DJ and I are saying? If you're cementing him as number 5, should we go with him at 5? And do you think Gill or Agarwal might open instead?
I do, but here's the thing. So then you're telling a Gill or an Agarwal, hey, you got 1 series. If you do great, too bad you're still being dropped, right? So unless this is a long-term plan to drop to work Dhawan way out of the side, but the way he played the IPL, I think he's here to stay for a little bit. I just don't know what the long-term plan is. If you bring a Gill in and he does really well, the next series when Rohit and Dhawan are going to open again, right? That's India's opening pair. So whereas a Rahul, I guess you could move up and move him back because you're trying to make sure he's sure of his spot in the 11. I don't know. There's no right answer.
But I feel like Rahul is pretty much now sorted in his spot. I think the fact that they've played these guys, Iyer and Rahul, at 4 and 5 for a couple of series, nothing is guaranteed. So I'm not saying that, this is the team that India is going to play. But I feel like moving KL Rahul up the order and then having Rohit Sharma come back and then moving him back down to number 5, it's almost better to just say, Gill, Agarwal, Rohit is not here. This is your chance. Play well. You guys are both openers or top 3. You're not going to get number 3 in any circumstance for the next, hopefully, 5-10 years. And so that's the way I think I saw it. And I think, DJ, you saw it the same way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, there's no value in moving KL up and down. I mean, just give the guy a run at 5. If you've said you're going to bat 5 in ODIs, just let him get used to that role of finishing or accelerating the innings and build up to that 2023 World Cup, right? That's what we want. We want a settled batting lineup. The last time we kept moving people to 4, moving them 3, opening the batting with them. I think just settle them down, and both Mayank and Gill will understand that. Gill will definitely understand he's young, he's got time on his side. So if Rohit comes back and he has to sit out for a few more games, so be it. There's no answer to that. And Mayank will also understand that he's breaking into the ODI team. So unless he's not going to replace who's potentially an all-time great, right? At which is Rohit. So I think that if they come in with that understanding and they know that their role is to fill in for Rohit while he's injured, that will be fine. It's less disturbance in the fabric of the team for my mind. And I would prefer that. The more stable we can keep this team, the better.
Awesome. Okay, so that's it, guys, for this week. I'm just going to give my one last comment, which is I do think that Mayank Agarwal has a chance to open. We've spoken about KL at 5, and I just feel that Mayank Agarwal is a certainty in the tests. I have a feeling that India and Kohli may just feel that get him onto the Australian pitches early. He is an opener. He did well in the IPL. And if he can get into that Australia season, opening the batting in ODIs, I feel like that could be a possibility. But hey, we'll find out in 4 days. We are all very excited. Bilateral series after a long, long time. And yeah, guys, we'll speak to you soon. Keep listening, and we'll be back and speak to you after the first ODI is done next week. So thank you, everyone.
Whether you're an established sports person or a budding one, or simply a sports enthusiast, join us, Tanvi and Shlok.
We are 2 passionate pro badminton players talking policy, mindset and everything sport.
So tune in to The Millennial Athlete every Monday.
Only on the IVM Podcast Network.
Trust us, it's gonna be lit.
रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे पॉडकास्ट लगते हैं. नाम है फुटबॉल शुटबॉल.
Presenting Football Shortball, a show about 3 friends discussing our favorite game over a beer. Sometimes 3, maybe even 5. Hi, I'm Shiva, and with me are my 2 sidekicks, Gaurav Sapre and Karthik Iyer.
Sidekick? You mean like Batman's Robin or Van Persie Robin?
No, I mean like Alexis Sanchez, but with a little more skill than just playing the piano.
Ha! Just shows how the best players at Arsenal are mere bench warmers at United.
Oh, thank you, Iyer. But you're a Fulham supporter, so whenever you say anything to support me, I question my beliefs.
Just like how Griezmann would say, एक बार मैंने जो decision ले लिया, तो मैं अपने आप की भी नहीं सुनता.
Banter aside, we will talk match reports, transfer rumors, top controversies, fantasy football picks, and so much more. So grab a beer and tune in to Football Shootball every Wednesday on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts.